speed! Go!
Hey guys, how's everybody doing? Welcome to Cocktail Time, episode 8 here, 4-Player Podcast. It's been a couple of weeks since we did this, and there has been a hole in my heart. A hole in my heart that is now being filled with cocks and time. So, with me this week is, as per usual, is Mr. Bob Webb. How are you doing, Bob?
I'm doing pretty good. Yourself?
I'm very, very well. And for the first time on Cocktail Time, one of our newest writers on the site at 4playerpodcast.com, all the way from London, or England, UK, Ireland place, is George Denison. How you doing, George?
I'm alright.
And it is 3-something in the morning over there.
4 in the morning.
4 in the morning. George is in the future at the moment.
I am in the future, yeah.
He's definitely in the future. How you guys doing? How you guys been these past couple of weeks?
Busy.
Yeah.
Very busy.
I had a horribly busy week this past week. It was awful. I hardly even played any games this week. Luckily, I played games last weekend this weekend. So I actually have a few things to talk about. This past week was sort of kind of a wash, so I don't know. It's been crazy. So, how was your week, George?
Yeah, also busy.
Yeah.
But I found the time to play a couple of things, so that's good.
Good. Excellent. So let's just get right into it, because I'm sure we have a bunch of stuff to talk about. Into our toast of the show. And George, since this is your maiden voyage with us on the ship of Cocktail Time, I'm going to let you start it out. Go
What, for the toast of the show?
Toast of the show. Toast of the week. Toast of the show.
Okay, my toast of the show is going to go to Red Lynx, who developed Trials Evolution, because that's it's been pretty much 90% of what I've been playing this week, and it's really good fun. So that's what my toast of the show goes to.
Nice. I have a real big love-hate relationship with Trials Evolution. My biggest problem with it is that I hate going slow on that game. I hate the slow hippity hoppity sort of stuff. That sort of makes up the majority of the later levels, the more difficult levels. I like going fast and hitting jumps and going like quickly through the levels and stuff. I want to play Trials Evolution almost like how I play a Sonic game. You know?
Yeah.
That's how I like it. And then of course there's they put like a bench in front of you. I have to spend like 20 minutes like going over this fucking bench, and I can't stand that shit. Plus I suck.
Just like real life.
Just like real life. Yeah. Plus I suck at it, so it doesn't help. So, how about you, Bob?
I guess my toast will go to Airtight Games, the developers that made Conundrum.
I have not played any of that yet.
Really?
Well, besides like conventions and stuff like that. I haven't picked it up.
Yeah, you probably should.
Well, we're going to talk about that later, right?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
I'll be talking about that later.
Awesome. My toast of the show probably goes to Bethesda, because I've been playing a bunch of the Dawnguard DLC for Skyrim, and I passed the 155-hour mark in Skyrim because of the DLC, and I think Skyrim is now the game that I actually have the most time invested in, even though I was big on MMOs. Well, maybe I shouldn't count my MMOs.
Yeah,
out.
no, those
that doesn't count.
Yeah,
I can't.
I have months of playtime dedicated to some MMOs. You no longer count in hours; it's months.
Yeah, I couldn't feasibly feel comfortable adding in like Anarchy Outline or something like that. As for console games, Skyrim now takes the lead as the game I've spent the most time playing, and I can see myself pretty easily at some point going past the 200 hour mark. Especially, we'll talk about it, but there's going to be more content coming out. Dawnguard is not. It's not like one of those big expansions they've been talking about. It's a bigger DLC, but it's not. It doesn't reach the levels of expansion. But we'll get to that. So, but my toast goes to Bethesda because it is quite good. And 155 hours later, I'm still finding shit in Skyrim that I missed.
Yeah, that's a sign of a solid game.
Yeah, exactly. Bob, you went already. So, we got to talk about what we're drinking. Shit.
Yeah.
I haven't done this in 2 weeks, and now I'm like all out of whack. I have no idea what the fuck is happening at the moment, and I look a shambles. I need a haircut. I'm tired. I'm a model citizen at the moment. So we'll go back around counterclockwise now. I just actually have a little bit of vodka in a sports drink type of thing, and coffee. So I'm drinking coffee, sports drink, and alcohol, which I don't know if that's a very good combination. But I have this really bad habit of going out and drinking the night before I'm supposed to go out and drink.
Yeah.
So like last night I went out and drank, and tonight's cocktail time, so I'm supposed to be drinking. But it's not just limited to that. It's like I'll go out like the night before New Year's. I get drunk, and then I'll be drunk on like New Year's Eve, and I'm like, fuck, I have to go out and drink again. Like, I do it all the time. I always, for some reason, I get so excited I can't wait, and I jump the gun.
It's like opening a Christmas present early.
That's what it is. I think I just need to go out and have a couple of drinks. So it's like opening what's in your stocking, rather than diving headlong under the tree in your pajamas, which I tend to do. Which is actually a fairly good euphemism for going to the bar, but How about you, George? What are you feasting upon?
Nothing exciting, just vodka and Red Bull.
Nice. What is your vodka choice? What is your
Imperial #1.
I've never ever heard of that. Hold it up to the camera.
No.
Let's take a look. I'll see, because I usually buy this stuff based on the label. Never heard of that at all. Oh wait, maybe I have. I don't know. Interesting. Is that bottom shelf, George? Should that be?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was pretty cheap.
That's no. Believe me, I don't think less of you. In fact, I might think more of you. So, it might have the opposite effect. One of my favorite vodkas. You should actually try it. It's not. It's moderately priced, but it's actually very good. Is Monopolova. You should try that. I'm not sure how it works country to country, and if you guys have different types of alcohol than we do, and because you can't get certain things. But if you do go and see a bottle of Monopolova, I recommend it highly.
If it's Russian, it's imported, then I'm sure.
I'm sure they can just get.
We got it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what are the liquor laws like in London. He's gonna go, what liquor laws? And I'm gonna go, you son of a bitch.
Yeah, it's a variety of things. Do you guys have White Lightning?
No.
I've heard of it.
We don't have
That's
that.
probably the cheapest alcohol with the most alcohol content.
Oh, so it's like hobo wine.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
So, I've just spent 4 years being a student, so it's
With your so it's sort of like that's like the UK's Cisco, in a sense.
Ugh.
yeah.
Bob knows what I'm talking about when I say Cisco.
Oh, good, because I don't.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Good. Yeah.
It's probably the worst fortified wine you could possibly find, but it's known to give people hallucinations.
Yeah.
And things. It's really pretty bad. I've had it multiple times, but it tastes like it's like drinking NyQuil but thicker. Like you'll be pining away for a bottle of NyQuil when you have to drink this stuff. It's so bad. But after the first bottle, you don't taste it anymore. So.
Does it actually have cough syrup in it?
I don't remember.
It's probably what causes hallucinations.
I was drinking Cisco at a very, very down part of my life.
I imagine you would be.
That's when you drink Cisco. You never drink Cisco in the good times.
It's never a high point when you're drinking Cisco.
You never drink. That should be like their tagline: Cisco, never for the good times.
Ugh.
Do you guys have Frosty Jacks? Have you heard of that?
No.
Frosted Jacks, no.
I think that is actually the highest alcohol content. Something like 7 or 8% for maybe £3 for an enormous bottle. And that's when I was in my first year at university. We always used to just get that basically every night. Now we all have liver damage, so that's good.
So is it like a malt liquor, or is it like some
No,
kind of
it's like
fruit thing?
yeah, it's like cider, but it's really horrible cider. I drank it loads in my first year. Then I went for nostalgia's sake. I bought a bottle of it in my third year, and then had one glass of it, and it just tasted like indescribably awful.
Yeah. No, there's certainly some malt liquors I can't really drink anymore because I'll drink them and they taste like liquid beef. It's the most disgusting thing.
Have you ever had liquid beef?
Yeah.
Let's keep in mind this is Bob, the man who drank mayonnaise in his drinks.
It's true.
Saying this is bad. What are the because now I'm totally interested. What are the liquor laws like in the UK? Do you have liquor laws like closing time for beers, drinking age, like state controlled liquor stores? Like what's it like?
Oh, we're all binge drinkers here. It's a terrible problem. Yeah.
So I remember. Okay, so I saw a news article on the telly, about a year ago, 2 years ago, and they were going to ban drinking in your subways, and everyone in England had a protest, and the protest was pretty much them having a giant party in the subways. And there's videos of there's hundreds of people in the subways, and they're all drinking out of kegs and stuff to protest this possible law that was going to come.
That just sounds awesome.
I remember that. There's no point to it though, because they just all now go and get drunk outside of the subway or tube, as we call it over here, and then just you know they're still drunk, but they just still you have to be drunk to survive the tube. It's horrible. It's it's really crowded and cramped and claustrophobic, and it's just really unpleasant. I'm not actually living in London, by the way. Do you guys know any other towns or cities in England other than London?
The entire thing was just London.
And
that's fair enough.
And you do work as a chimney sweep, right? Because everything I know about London I learned from Disney movies. So, did we lose him?
Uh-oh.
Oh, I think we lost him.
Very surprised.
I think we lost him. It was the chimney sweep.
Yeah. You insulted him so much he just left.
He left. He's left us forever. We'll have to get him back. Is he on Skype anymore?
No, he dropped off.
Someone in chat says London's Calling, which of course is the song. He had to leave because London was
well, I guess I can go into what I'm making for tonight.
Yeah, he can.
Ooh, now all the screen regions gonna be screwed up, aren't they?
Well, I'll just take his off for now.
Okay.
There we go. And I'll just move you over. There we go. So I want him back because I want to not only don't want him on the show, but I want to know about liquor laws in London now. I'm fascinated by what goes on there because I remember seeing this news item, and it was absolutely fantastic. Like they're just partying into the subway with alcohol. It was wonderful.
That sounds great.
Yeah. So what are you drinking? What are you making tonight? What's on the fucking menu, my friend?
So I'm making something called the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. Now this isn't, there's no mayonnaise involved or anything like that. So sorry to get your hopes up. But there is, so we got some peppermint schnapps. This is hot damn. Well, yeah, it does say hot damn. I wasn't actually expecting that. So it's peppermint schnapps. That's the first part, which is just a new bottle I got. I didn't have any, so I had to go pick it up. Ooh, it's nice. It's supposed to be Goldschlager, but I didn't want to buy Goldschlager because I'm cheap. So there's your war. It's actually appropriately red. That's kind of cool. Ah! And I'm losing everything. Son of a bitch. Excuse me while I go into the desk. Alright, so there's our war. Here we have peppermint schnapps,
Okay.
or rumplemints is normally what you use. So this is our famine.
Mm-hmm.
And we have Jägermeister, our pestilence.
Okay, that's a good choice for that.
And of course, the last horseman of the apocalypse would be Death, which is 151. Which for some reason is becoming a recurring theme in these drinks.
Mm-hmm. I think George popped back in. Did George back in his Skype here?
No, not yet.
Okay, I heard something.
So yeah, here's one of my four horsemen of the apocalypse. It's
Wow,
nice and brown.
amazing.
Yeah, it's very large. I poured a little big. This is actually a double shot.
That's fine. There's no problem with that.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Thing is, it's actually kind of a pleasant shot to drink because it's got not only does it have the licorice flavor from the Jägermeister, you get the minty flavor from the peppermint schnapps, as well as the cinnamon from the cinnamon schnapps, and it kind of creates this kind of weird mixture in your mouth that kind of tastes like chewing gum.
Oh, wow. It'd be wonderful if they actually layered out. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, actually, I'll make I could layer them out if I didn't have the tools for it. You need to do it by gravity.
Yeah.
So I probably could figure out how to do that. That's 35. What the fuck is that? That's 30 proof. Most of these are like 30 or higher. 60 proof, and of course 151.
Right.
Ooh, this is gonna be. Yeah, it becomes a fucking mess when you'd have too many of these.
Skittles, it says Bob is in it to win it. Are you ready to win it, Bob?
I'm always winning.
You're a winner.
I'm by winning.
By winning.
By winning.
By winning. Okay, shall we do this? And we'll move on to impressions.
Yeah. It's unfortunate George is not here to take a shot.
Well, he said his.
George.
He had said his. Before we went on, he said his laptop was slowing down quite a bit. So
God.
I think his laptop probably pooped all over.
Everything.
Pooped all over himself.
I guess the other thing I can bring in here and show you guys what I'm drinking, it's a coffee, but it's got Bailey's in it.
Oh, that's a good. I don't have any Baileys. If I did, I'd be putting in my coffee.
Yeah, I know. Bailey's ice cream is great in coffee.
So,
tasty.
people who don't know, both Bob and I got drunk last night. So we're both, we were I was at the bar and I was texting. We were texting each other back and forth. He's like, "Are you drunk?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Me too." So.
There, George. George is on that now.
Oh, George, can you pull him into
pull
this? Can you do it? Because I'm screen regioned up here.
George.
Do you have a possibility? Although
George.
I am doing the call.
I know that's the thing is I've tried to pull him in, but
Can't do it.
George. Oh, hey.
I'm
Hey,
back.
he's here.
Hey, he's alive.
Welcome back to the show.
Sorry, my laptop chose the worst time to completely just shut down and die.
Yeah, that's usually what happens. At least during one time during the show.
I just sent you another
Have you got-
invite.
Okay, have you got me on video, or do I need to?
Oh no, I just
Google Hang.
yeah, I just sent you another invite for Google Hangout. And then when you get back in, we'll do our shots. So the
Okay.
was it your laptop? Was it the laptop?
Yeah, well, it was the laptop, specifically the laptop fan,
Oh.
which is really going into overdrive at the moment.
Oh, you overheated is what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was having that problem with my computer actually. So Bob, remember a couple of shows back when my computer just restarted and you had to take
Yep.
over?
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, it's because my computer overheated. It started doing.
It's never good.
Yeah, it started doing that. I was rendering a video and it overheated. So I opened it up and I pulled out a lot of dust from inside of the heatsink over the CPU, and a couple other areas. And now it's much better. The fan doesn't go as loud anymore. It's
Oh yeah, no, I do that about at least 2 or 3 times a year. I'll open up my PC and just clean it out because you'll get at least like an inch of dust on there.
yeah. It had been about 5 years.
Yeah, that's probably about time to do that.
You know, and I'm a man, so I probably don't vacuum nearly as much as I should, and I can't afford a housekeeper. So,
Yes, that's why I have girlfriends. Oh,
oh, that's terribly misogynistic.
and I know.
We're-
I was
now we're gonna-
horrible. I was
now-
expecting Tara to hit me, but she wasn't able to hear what we said.
Now we have to fire you publicly over Twitter.
I know. Jesus Christ.
Did you see that happen last night?
Yeah, yeah, I saw that.
That people don't know. One of Destructoid's writers said some pretty stupid things to
Extremely stupid things.
yeah to Felicia Day, and you know, it became a big old thing, and Will Wheaton called him out, and he was publicly fired by Destructoid last night. So his writing career is pretty much over. And here's George.
Yes.
I'm back.
Oh, you have to take off the
You're double back.
you have to take
Oh,
off
yeah.
the mic on your Google Hangout.
There we go.
How's that?
Perfect. Welcome back.
Brilliant.
Just in time. So, I was asking about liquor laws in the UK.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So,
I think we're 24 hours now, but it doesn't really matter because people basically get their cheap booze from local petrol stations and things like that, and just drink in their own houses, go out and beat everyone up. So
the UK sounds awesome.
it's a wonderful country. There's so much rain. It's, you know,
I do love
don't know
that.
why you wouldn't want to come here.
I do love that. Like Seattle as actually temperate.
Yeah.
Temperate wise, Seattle's very much like the United Kingdom. So like rains a lot. It's like, you know, if it gets 90 degrees, that's hot for here. You know, for the
Yeah.
most part. What's the drinking age in UK?
18.
God, that's awesome. Like, America is not the land of the free. Everyone should be watching this now and going, "Fuck, what's wrong with our country?" So, oh well. So,
I probably should drink this.
you gonna drink that? You gonna do this?
Yeah.
Can we do it?
The brown thing.
All right, 2, 1, 2, 3. How was that,
Ooh,
Bob?
that layered out.
How was that?
It's like I just swallowed an entire tube of toothpaste.
It's that schnapps. It's the peppermint.
Yeah, the peppermint and the cinnamon
Yeah.
and the Jägermeister.
That sounds terrible. That's a lot of spice.
Clears out your sinuses.
I bet.
I should have that when I'm sick.
You should. I should have had that when I was sick. Jesus. Oh well. All right, let's move on to let's do impressions of what we played this week and stuff like that. Who wants to start us out? Anyone? Anyone? I should have a big wheel that I can spin. And so you goes first. Hey George, why don't you go first since it's your first time?
Okay. Yeah, so like I said, I've been playing loads of Trials Evolution.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When the first game came out, Trials HD, I played the demo and then really, really liked it, but then didn't actually get around to picking up the full game.
Mhm.
So this time I thought, okay, I'm going to actually buy this one, and I did. And yeah, it's really, really good fun.
Mhm.
I actually like the fact that it's a game that's simple to learn but difficult to master, which is something that you don't. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about this, but I don't feel like you get that as much anymore. It's really accessible, but there's a lot of challenge to it as well.
Mhm.
So that's good.
Yeah. I mean, everything's done with 2 buttons for the most part.
Yeah, it's the right trigger and the analog stick basically, and
Yeah.
well no, and there's the left trigger to brake as well. But yeah, it's really easy to start off with, but later on it gets really hard, which is good.
Yeah, I like really that game shines when you get into like more of the downloadable content and the tracks that people make, and people do some really awesome stuff. Like there's this one track. I mean, it's not really that difficult, but in terms of like how technical it is. They did this this Terminator 2 track. We pretty much play through scenes from Terminator 2 in the movie, and like the final one is the part where John Connor is going through the waterways in L.A. being chased by the giant truck that the T-800 is driving, and they just kind of recreate that whole scene, which is like so fucking cool, you know.
Yeah, I haven't checked out a lot of the user-created stuff yet, but there is one level in the single-player game that's based around Limbo.
Oh,
In terms of the art style and everything, I thought that was the moment where it went from being like an 8 out of 10 game to a 9 out of 10 game. So I thought that's fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. I haven't really done much with like the track editor and stuff. Like as I said earlier, I kind of have like a love-hate relationship with Trials. I kind of enjoy it, and then like it just pisses me off. And I think it has that. I think it kind of has that effect on people. Like they love the parts that they love, but you know the pendulum immediately swings the complete other way to hatred and swearing and yelling and cursing.
Well, it's very similar to like N Plus or Super Meat Boy in that kind of way.
Yeah, somewhat. It's a little bit different though because like with Super Meat Boy, if you fail, it's an immediate failure on the whole level, and you kind of start again. You know, it's almost like it feels like you're kind of resetting and it very quickly, and it feels okay because the whole thing resets. Whereas in within Trials, if you mess up, it doesn't start you from the very beginning, but you also don't know how that's going to affect your overall score at the end, especially since you're trying so hard to get medals. So, I'll mess up once on Trials Evolution, somewhere in the middle, and instead of me just having to do the whole thing again like I would do in Super Meat Boy, and I can just kind of live with that and be okay with it, like, the whole rest of the time, I'm like, am I wasting my time by even continuing this? You know, am I going to spend the next 10 minutes doing this level and then wind up getting, a bronze medal when I really need another silver one to open up the next track? So a lot of times in Evolution, what I ended up doing was you kind of have to separate yourself out of it, and pretty much you have to pretty much come to terms with the fact that if you do fail, you just screwed up the whole thing, and if you keep on going, you're just doing it like the rest of it's practice or to learn the track. You know what I mean?
But I like the Super Meat Boy comparison because it's similar in that it's very quick, and then if you do screw up, then it's very easy to just go back, and there's the bare minimum of loading screens and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's very sort of quick and snappy, and it keeps you wanting to play on. Unlike a lot of AAA games where if you mess up, you have to sit through a
30-second cinematic. Ugh.
Yeah. In fact, the other game I've been playing this week, I went back to the Mortal Kombat reboot.
Oh yeah.
And every time you start up the story, you have to sit through an unskippable cutscene.
Yeah.
So that's a real pain, and it's interesting that I had that contrast.
Yeah, I the thing about Mortal Kombat, the reboot of it, is like that whole story thing goes on way too long. It is a long single-player game, and it's so. I can see why they did it, because Mortal Kombat has its lore, and it's kind of like, it's kind of cheesy. It's like Big Trouble in Little China sort of thing. But that it goes on way. The single-player game is like almost as long as the fucking movie. It's not really necessary. I just want to go and fight dudes, But.
Yeah, they put a surprising amount of production values into that story and the cutscenes and everything. I mean, it's like the voice acting's okay and all that, and it looks great. But I think fighting games in general are just a really bad genre to tell stories with.
Oh,
because you have to find some reason in the story to randomly beat 20 people to death.
Right.
Yeah. Well, it's like with Tekken just had the stupidest stories. Like it was kind of a joke for that series.
Well, yeah, and then there's the Soul Calibur story, which doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, Soul Calibur's one of the worst, and Dead or Alive as well. I think that has a story in there somewhere.
Yeah, who knows? The thing I love about Soul Calibur is before every match, there's that narrator that says some nonsensical thing that seems to make no sense at all. That happens every time. What is that? It's like before every match, it's just like, and then the eagle dared to come down and vanquish the foes of the fallen, you know. And then it's like fight. It's like, well, what the fuck was that? What was that? You know, 2 victors, 1 falls. The moon is bright. I need a Twinkie, and you know, they fight. It's like, what? Why is that necessary? And I almost think like, is it intentionally that cheesy? Is it a problem with translation, that it's getting mistranslated somehow, and it's like this weird English sort of thing? It's very, very bizarre.
It's like you're opening a fortune cookie before each fight.
Yeah, it's like a drunk fortune cookie every time. You know.
I think translation problems account for a larger part of bad video game storytelling than people think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Probably. I used to play Trials of Evolution. I'm sorry, Soul Calibur in the arcades all the time. Like when I was a little kid, like that was like my go-to game at the time. I think I liked it how it was all flashy and, you know, the costumes are really cool.
That's one way of putting it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
a lot of boobies. A lot of.
I like the artistic design.
Yeah. A lot of. Well, I used to play
like
Voldo all the time, so he's like the kind of skip guy.
There's a lot of fetish stuff going on, particularly in the Soul Calibur games.
Yeah. Oh man, I haven't. I think I have Soul Calibur 4, but I haven't played many of the others. Like not since the arcade days.
Yeah, the telling thing is that in Soul Calibur 4 they introduced that clothing damage thing, where if you did enough damage in a specific way, then their clothes would fall off, and that pretty much sums up fighting games in general for me.
Oh man, so. But did you were you a big Mortal Kombat fan, like generally, or?
No, I didn't really play many of the earlier games. It's just I just picked this one up because it got good reviews.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, okay, I'll see what the fuss is about.
Yeah.
I'm actually enjoying it a lot more than I thought I would, considering I really don't like fighting games because it seems more controlled.
Yeah.
It seems because if you play something like Smash Brothers or BlazBlue or something like that, then it's just like particle effects and crazy shit going on all over the place, and then it's like it's hard to sort of separate that from where the actual skill of the game lies. But with this, it's more kind of, it's easier to sort of feel like you're in control of it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, Mortal Kombat is not really it's not a button masher. Like a lot of times, if I'll play like BlazBlue or one of those other games, like I feel like I can just even like Marvel vs. Capcom. You know, I feel like I can just sort of hit buttons randomly, and all of a sudden, like shit starts happening, and it's like, you know, and I'm winning. And of course, the flip of the coin of that is like someone who actually knows what they're doing, like really well, will completely destroy you, because they've sort of mastered the art. But it sort of makes the new player feel kind of good when like they start making, you know, a bunch of shiny stuff kind of happen on screen, and they kind of feel good about it. Mortal Kombat's like totally the opposite. Like if you don't know what you're doing, you'll just end up like swinging in the air at nothing. You know, you look like you don't know what you're doing. You know, and it's very like, I don't want to use the word tactical, but it's like, I don't know, what is the word I'm looking for? It's very not direct. I don't know. It just seems like the characters only do what you tell them to do. They never really do anything by mistake. You know, like other games.
Yeah.
So it's a little more deliberate.
Deliberate, that's the word I was looking for. Deliberate. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bob.
Because the thing is, I don't really like the Smash Brothers games, but I think it's a real shame because there's a really interesting system going on underneath all of the crap that they throw on top of it, which is what really frustrates me. Is I don't know. I mean, a lot of people play that game because it's just about, you can play it as a button masher. And just, you know, you can play as Donkey Kong and beat up Princess Peach or whatever. But it's like there's a lot of really interesting stuff going on underneath, but then there's so much other random things going on over the top of it that it kind of gets lost, which is what I find that really frustrating.
What do you think of like the new PlayStation All-Stars game, that sort of Smash Brothers?
Yeah. When that got announced, I just thought, no, I'm not going to pick that one up.
I like the idea of it. I like the idea of using the different characters, but I'm not a big Smash Brothers fan, so I wish it was a little bit more of an actual fighting game, like a Mortal Kombat or something like that. You know, like I don't know. I don't have much interest in what they're selling there, especially with the what we saw at E3 with the sort of like power moves. That's all based around power moves, where you just pretty much the entire game, all you're doing is building up to your power moves, and then those are just one hit kills. You know, you can't. There's nothing like chip damage. There's no like light and heavy attacks. It's just all like build up your meter until you can kill everyone. And I don't.
Yeah.
That's not. That doesn't sound like a fun time for me at all. So.
And you can't kill anyone unless you build up your meter.
Exactly. Like you actually cannot. You literally cannot kill anyone unless you're using one of those big power attacks, which is kind of bullshit, I think.
It seems kind of like a one-trick pony that's going to become incredibly boring, incredibly quick.
Well, I think they're going to be depending on getting as many lovable, endearing characters as they possibly can from the Sony universe, and they're trying to sell it on that. But I mean, the game is for the most part based around a pretty poor mechanic.
And I think, I mean, you say lovable characters. I remember when the first Smash Brothers came out, I actually did quite enjoy it, and I thought that the idea was quite neat, that you had these established characters and they were all just beating the crap out of each other. But when PlayStation All-Stars was announced, I thought it wasn't quite as sensical. I don't know. I mean, I guess it's not sensical anyway, but it's like, why would Parappa the Rapper want to randomly kick in Nathan Drake's head? It didn't make as much sense as something like Mario versus Captain Falcon or something. And in my mind, I'm not quite sure why, but I don't know. Maybe the PlayStation roster isn't quite as fighting focused. It's like Sorry, go on.
Okay. Well, I think that maybe that's it. And I think also when it comes to Nintendo, all the characters kind of the art style, they're not differentiated all that much in terms of the art style and how they look and the color variations and the brightness of the colors. I mean, Mario is kind of can be from the same palette as like a Link character or Donkey Kong. You know what I mean? Whereas you have like Parappa the Rapper, which is like this almost one-dimensional little cartoon guy from the PS1 era, and then you have Nathan Drake, who's pretty much this guy. And they don't seem to gel together as well as the characters in Smash Brothers do.
Well, I think it's also the tone of it. Like, in a lot of the Nintendo stuff is much more lighthearted, more comical, and a lot of the Sony stuff is very serious.
Yeah.
So it just seems kind of a jarring contrast between,
Like they might as well have just thrown in the detective from Heavy Rain.
He just puts there and puts on his glasses,
right? Or
walks around the entire time.
Another guy, and he throws he throws the word Jason at you and X's. Man. Anything else, George? You been playing?
Hello?
Hello? Uh-oh. Are we losing? Are we losing George again?
No, he's still here.
No, I'm still here.
Oh, okay. Have you been playing anything else?
I played about an hour of Fez, which I'm really liking so far, but I haven't had the time to go back to it.
I still have not played.
What I've done.
I've still have not
played
played
about an
Fez.
hour, and that's it.
Yeah, I still haven't played it at all.
It's fun. It's just like after you get out of the first area, everything opens up, and you're like, oh shit, okay, what do I do? It's a little bit overwhelming because there's so many fucking choices.
I really like that though. It's nice that it's not too handholdy, that it just lets you kind of figure it out by yourself.
Yeah, I definitely want to get back into it and see and finish it eventually. So hopefully at some point I'll be able to do that.
And for the people who haven't played it, one of the things that put me off playing it initially was that it had, from the screenshots, it looked like it had this retro art style, and I kind of think that the games that were made 20 years ago, 90% of the time, just weren't very good, and people just have this nostalgic thing, so that's what put me off. But Fez does actually have a really interesting art style that combines modern graphical stuff with an old retro thing. And I'd be interested to see where they kind of go with that, because it was made by Phil Fish, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see where he sort of takes that in terms of, I mean, I don't know if it really has a story or anything, but it seems like there's some interesting stuff going on underneath the surface.
Yeah, there absolutely is. Actually, recently I just watched the indie game movie this past week. Actually, I picked it up off of Steam. when it came out on Steam, and that actually covers the development of Fez as well as Super Meat Boy. Does it do another game? I think it's just Fez and Super Meat Boy are the main focuses, but yeah, it took a long time to develop, and it was rewritten like 3 times. So it's there's definitely a lot more to just the surface of what the game is. Oh, they talked about Braid as well. That's what the one they did.
Yeah, that's a very immediate comparison to make. But I think one of the crucial differences is that I really liked Braid, but I found it kind of humorless, and a lot of those text screens and stuff were quite pretentious, and I've seen other people play Braid and they just don't give a shit about that at all. They just go straight onto the puzzles, whereas with Fez it seemed like it was more kind of, not taking itself too seriously, which is really nice.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, you are this little guy that gets the open sequence when you start getting into that world spin mechanic. It's incredibly goofy. Like, the little Fez hat falls slowly down dramatically. It's just this tiny ass little hat, and then falls and lands on his head, and an explosion of sparks and light and everything. It's very comical. So it's one of those games that doesn't take itself too seriously.
Mm-hmm. What's the main mechanic in Fez?
You spin the world.
But I mean, besides,
so it's a 2D plane, right?
Right.
That's basically that's it. That's mechanics. That's it. You pick up little pieces of cube to rebuild a giant cube, but pretty much the rest of the world is just changing their perspective so you can get access to different platforms in a 2D plane.
Oh, I see. So
primarily
a building mechanic, right?
Building mechanic.
Yeah. Well, you said you're spinning the world to build.
Well, you change perspective. So you have a flat 2D plane. But it's really a 3D environment. It's just you only ever see one plane of it.
Right. I've seen the spinning thing.
You'll rotate it. So if you have a platform that's kind of sitting out in front of you, and then you rotate it, it'll actually be jutted out to the side a bit, so you can actually move over to it and try to get somewhere else. It's just a changing perspective, so you can traverse the world.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
It's quite similar to Ilo Milo and Ecochrome.
Yeah.
I don't know if you played those games.
Much like that.
Okay. Cool. I like I said, I still haven't played that game. It's kind of. I guess I should, right? Don't I have an obligation to play the art games, or if you want to whatever you want to call them, the indie games?
You do.
I do.
Especially because we got a goddamn award show in about 6 months. I'm gonna have to fucking kick it up a notch.
Shit.
I know. I was just thinking about that. I was like, fuck, I've got to go through all these goddamn.
Are we halfway through the year already?
Yeah. We're actually further than halfway now. We're in month 7.
That's amazing.
So, actually, no, we're stood dead on halfway through.
It's been a good year for games so far. I'll tell you.
It's been really good. There's been a lot of surprises.
So, yeah, no, there's been a lot of surprises. Dragon's Dogma.
At some point, I'm gonna have to actually go pick up that game.
You should.
I'm afraid.
Why are you afraid? Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid.
I'm gonna spend at least 60 to 100 hours in it, and I don't have that time.
Yes, you will.
I'm holding off playing on Dragon's Dogma, but for different reasons. Because over the last sort of 12 months or so, I've played Skyrim, Dark Souls, Hunted the Demon's Forge, Dungeon Siege 3, Witcher 2, Dragon Age 2, and I'm just sick to the back teeth of dark fantasy games. No, not RPGs. But,
you're like, no more trolls, no more goblins, please.
No more fucking orcs. So I'm gonna leave that probably to the end of the year or somewhere close to it.
Yeah. What did you think of Dungeon Siege 3?
No, not interested. I'm not really into dungeon crawlers, so I might go back at some point and play it properly. But really, I only played maybe 3 or 4 hours of it, and then just completely lost interest.
I only asked because I was a big fan of the earlier Dungeon Sieges on the PC. So when this one was announced and was going to come out, I was pretty excited for it. And then when I ended up playing it, I was really disappointed in it. I couldn't. It didn't get its claws into me. I think I played maybe 4 or 5 hours, and put it down.
It has the worst kind of voice acting, which isn't good enough to be entertaining, and it isn't bad enough to be entertaining.
Right.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
No. Exactly. Yeah. It's awful. And I was really disappointed. That was a game I was really hoping was going to be good. So I don't know. I'd like to see a new Neverwinter Nights, but that's just me. No. But, all right, Bob.
Yes.
What have you been playing?
Games.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, you're done. What have I been playing? That's it.
No, actually, I guess we can talk about Quantum Conundrum now.
Oh yeah. So I played some of that at E3.
Yeah.
I liked it. I mean, it's a reskinned Portal.
But basically, yeah, so you have a kind of something that's very similar to a Portal type gun. It's not necessarily a gun. You just change. Oh no, we're sleeping. You change the dimensions. There's 4 dimensions that you get access to.
Mm-hmm.
You change those on the fly. There are basically test chambers.
Mm-hmm.
There is a narrator that's cracking jokes the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of companion cubes, there are safes.
Mm-hmm.
So apparently I sound all derpled. I don't know why.
I don't know. You sound fine to me, but I'm also broadcasting this through.
Oh, yes. Well, it'll come through fine on the
Yeah.
on the podcast. So.
Sometimes it does this, guys, watching at home, and it ends up going back. Like, it fixes itself, so.
Yeah, it's actually appropriate that I sound like a robot, because eventually as you go through the...
Oh, actually, no, let me try this. Let me turn the audio off and on. Okay.
Sure.
Maybe that
Sure.
helps. I don't know.
Maybe. I think it might have helped.
Okay. Go for it.
Hey.
Hey, good.
All right. So, it's interesting because as you progress through Quantum Conundrum, you're basically in your uncle's house. You're this kid that his mother sends to his uncle or her brother or your uncle every
Wait,
couple years or so.
something just hit me. You're in your uncle's house. You're in
Yes.
these test chambers
Yes.
in your uncle's house. Is this like a euphemism for getting molested?
Possibly.
Like the trials become harder and harder and more difficult and more dangerous.
Yeah, it could be a euphemism for that, Joseph.
Because I know that when you go to the heavy world, some of those pictures of the uncle, he's like in a gimp suit and stuff. So
yeah, they're in the leather suits, and
I'm
that's
just saying.
yeah. Yeah, the kid always looks. It's funny because the kid always looks sad in those paintings. So it could be kind of kind of reflection of his inner turmoil.
Yeah.
That he gets sent to his uncle's house every year to be molested. So, sort of a flesh sacrifice.
Right, to the elder gods which reside in the basement of his home.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
It's very metaphorical for the human condition.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we figured this one out on Cocktail Time.
Yeah, we nailed it, guys. That's it. That's going to be up in my review when I write that eventually.
Yes. The whole thing is really an allegory to child sexual abuse.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna have to really investigate that.
Excuse me. So
That's horrible.
go on.
So yeah, you basically as you progress through the house, more areas become more mechanic and more stuff gets exposed. So when you very first are in the home, it looks like you're in a house. There's walls, there's drywall, there's floors, and then there's just these small scientific components like a dolly, which is this kind of robot face on a wall that spits out either safes or tables or chairs or whatever. But as you progress through, like bits of the wall are coming off and cogs in the back or pipes or stuff like that. So it's very similar to like Portal 1, where in the very beginning you had that really pristine look to the chambers, the test chambers. But as you go through, the end, everything falling apart. So it was sorry, that's the stream kind of froze for me a minute. But as you progress through, it's kind of weird. It's incredibly small.
Uh-oh.
the combination of mechanics are
You're
really interesting.
You're kind of cutting it out, just so you know.
God damn it! All right, I'm gonna see if I can find anything that's downloading.
Stop downloading porn.
We started talking about child abuse and automatically Connect heard me in the other room, and my Xbox is just going fucking nuts.
Your girlfriend is actually pirating a copy of Magic Mike at this instant.
Magic Mike. I don't want this.
That's it's the male stripper movie.
Oh,
That's out in theaters right now.
oh, I've seen the I saw the posters for that. I had no idea what the fuck that was.
That's what that is. I was actually at the movies the other night, seeing the Snow White and the Huntsman movie, which is actually
Hit yourself.
what?
Hit yourself.
Why did I? No, it was really good. It was actually. It's like so. Snow White and the Huntsman is basically a movie for adults that have grown up on like Labyrinth and Legend and Time Bandits and all those old like 80s fantasy
So
movies.
it's a lot like the kind of harkens back to that.
Yeah, there's scenes that are like directly taken out of like wholesale lifted from like Labyrinth and Legend and stuff. But it's really good. And like the girl who plays Snow White is like totally like the new Jennifer Connelly, like 100%. You know.
What? No, you're talking about the stupid chick that can't act, right?
I don't know. Who is she?
The chick that is from all the goddamn Twilight movies.
Is she in the Twilight movies? Is that who that is?
Yes.
Kristen Stewart. Kristen Stewart.
She has one expression, and that's vacant.
Well, that Snow White's pretty vacant. I mean, it's Snow White. She's like
Maybe she got typecasted.
maybe. Maybe. Well, she has the Jennifer Connelly look. She's not as good as Jennifer Connelly was. In the movies, you know?
No, I wouldn't.
You know, but I know I liked it. It was enjoyable. And there's like, you can tell like the director of this movie really grew up on those movies I just mentioned, and also like toward the end of the movie, like they start kind of having fun with the whole thing. Like, as there's at one point it's the final battle, and the huntsman is fighting, and every time it happens like 6 or 7 times, he hits somebody, and he goes yeah, like that, like that sound comes on. He punches somebody, he's like yeah, and like the more I heard it, I'm actually convinced now it's a sample from Macho Man Randy Savage.
Really?
And they just threw it in there.
Awesome. I'm gonna have to actually see that now.
And there's one part where like, and there's like toward the end, like one of the guards gets hit by an arrow and falls off a wall, and they use the Wilhelm scream.
Oh, awesome.
Which is, you know, a total, like, inside joke, like, cinema inside joke now. I don't know, I enjoyed it. I liked it. It was cool. It was fantastical. No David Bowie and no David Bowie crotch, but that's the only thing it was probably missing.
Yeah, you can't have a 80s or 90s fantasy movie without a little bit of Z Stardust.
That's right. That's right. All right, so now you're talking about Quantum Conundrum.
Quantum Conundrum?
Hopefully your mic is better.
Yeah, hopefully. So the it's basically like a kind of like a weekend with different mechanics. I really like the combination of mechanics. There's no puzzle was too difficult to get.
Mm-hmm.
It's very similar like that kind of in Portal, where if you just kind of keep your eyes open and work long enough on a puzzle, or you go away and you come back to it, you'll have the solution for it. As well as the narrator, which is your uncle, who is currently stuck in a pocket dimension, will eventually give you hints as to how to solve a puzzle if you're taking too long. And it never really kind of gives you the straight up answer to it, but he'll give you things like, oh, you should make a leap of faith, or something like that. Which eventually, will help lead you to an answer. But the
So are you trying to escape from your uncle's house, or are you what?
that would work with a metaphor we were working on earlier.
It would. That certainly would. But I mean, so you get sent to your uncle's house, and now he puts you in these test chambers to test you, to let you out.
Well, so you go to your uncle's house, and except he's not there. Something catastrophic happens, and he wakes up in a pocket dimension, somewhere he can't get out of.
He can't get out of your pockets.
Exactly. So it's your job to get your uncle out of the pocket dimension.
So you have to get your uncle out of your pockets.
Yes.
He's got his hand deep in your pockets, and he can't get out, and your job is to get him out of there.
Yes, and you have your
his big, large, calloused woodworker hands are in your pockets.
the great thing is that the dimension shifting device is a single glove. It's not a white glove. Otherwise, they could have played off the whole Michael Jackson thing. But it's this little single glove.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting. Aside from the pedophilic undertones, there's the game is actually a lot of fun. If you liked Portal, you'll like it. Unless you just are too focused on the fact that it's very similar to Portal. I mean, it's made by basically the same person.
Yeah.
So it's kind of disappointing she didn't really break out of that sort of template that she's now constructed for herself. Mm-hmm. It would have been much more interesting if she did something different, entirely different, rather than the whole test chamber structured puzzle game platformer.
Mm-hmm. Right.
With the slightly different mechanics. So.
Does it have a character that's as engaging as GLaDOS, or is it?
Yeah, the uncle's pretty funny at times. The uncle is actually the guy that played Q from Star Trek Next Generation.
Okay.
So he's voiced by him. Yeah, it was just kind of interesting because it's like he's vaguely familiar, and then after about like one or two chambers, I was like, wait, is that Q? It's just kind of weird, like weirdly familiar voice that you don't just immediately recognize, but after a while, it's like, wait, no, this has got to be the same voice actor.
Which character was Q in Next Generation?
Q was the interdimensional being that would fuck with the spaceship every once in a while.
Okay, I'd have to go back and look. I haven't watched Next Generation in a really long time.
Yeah, it's on Netflix. You can go watch all of it.
Oh, nice. I don't recall Q exactly, but
really, he's in the very first episode.
I'm sure I saw him. I just don't recall him.
Yeah,
I just don't remember. It's been a while. So, but did you like it? Did you finish it?
Oh yeah, I beat it. It took me about like 5 to 6 hours to beat. It's relatively short game. It's only like $15. Mm-hmm. I believe it releases on PSN and XBLA next week. Mm-hmm. This coming week, I think it's coming out on those. It was out on PC like 2 weeks ago.
Right.
But there are 2 upcoming DLCs for it. The game kind of ends on a cliffhanger-ish type thing, so there is definitely it kind of wraps up the story a little bit, but it's opened up to the point where you're gonna, if you want to get the whole story or whatever, if you really care about that much, then you're gonna have to pick up the DLC, which I think is also not terribly expensive. I know for $20 on Steam you can get the full game plus the 2 additional DLCs, which might be like $5 each or something like that.
Oh, okay. Cool. Yeah.
Given how it's priced.
I'll pick that up. I'll see.
It's good. It's fun. It's it's very interesting. Like it's definitely states that whole puzzler kind of platformer genre desire. If you really liked that style of game, really like Portal, it's good. There's no reason you shouldn't play it.
Yeah. I mean, what talking about this really makes me kind of excited for is, Half-Life 3 and how they're going to sort of merge in Portal mechanics into that game. Because I think everyone kind of feels like that's where it's going. That the game, Portal games and Half-Life 3 kind of are part of the same universe. And
yeah, they definitely did the tie-in with Episode 2, was it?
Yeah. So I mean, having a portal gun in a first-person shooter seems like it would be pretty cool.
Yeah, it would be. Though you open up a lot of problems because in most first-person shooters, especially if you take like Half-Life 2, it's like, well, you need to work to get all the way up to this platform, but I'll just shoot a portal up there. I don't have to, we can just sneak by all these guys by just warping in dimensions and getting all the way up there.
Well, I mean, yeah, you can do that, but I mean, much like Portal, the Portal games, Portal and Portal 2, the portals don't work on every surface.
Yeah, they're restricted.
They're restricted, so they can work to restrict the portal gun, so you actually can't just like warp your way to the end of the game.
Yeah.
Which is what they would probably do. I mean, the portal gun itself works on finite, items like the moonstone and the goose stuff. You know what I mean? It's like it is a limited machine no matter what. So I think they can find some pretty easy ways to work around that problem.
I like the idea of using it as a weapon, or at least as another weapon, like our addition to your arsenal.
Mm-hmm.
like being able to throw a portal up on the ceiling and then put a portal next to you and then be able to snipe people from, somewhere they can't even see you.
Yeah, or using it to, put a portal under a ceiling or on a ceiling and then put a portal under an enemy and then kill them with fall damage. Something like that. It can be really pretty cool. So, also,
now you mentioned Half-Life 3. Something just occurred to me. Didn't Valve say they were going to stop making single-player games? That they were just going to do like multiplayer and co-op games?
Yeah, like someone who may or may not work at Valve may have confirmed the existence of 3. So they'd be stupid not to release it, since people will buy it. There's no reason for them not to make it.
It might turn out to be one of those Duke Nukem Forever scenarios, though, where it's been so long that it can't ever possibly live up to whatever is inside people's heads, their expectations of it.
Absolutely, I think people are going to have the really extremely high expectations of it. Even though Half-Life 2 and the games were pretty good first-person shooters. They weren't amazing and the best first-person shooters ever. I mean, we've certainly got better first-person shooters, but as a story-driven first-person shooter, they're still, up there. But
I think Half-Life 1 though kind of changed everything for first-person shooters.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before Half-Life 1, we were looking at like shooters were like Doom. It was just like waves of enemies coming at you. And that was kind of it. And Half-Life 1 really, one thing that Valve really did is they made, instead of the world just being an art asset, the world itself became almost like a living, breathing character that you were able to interact with, and that was the big change that Valve brought to the table.
With like Doom, your narrative was the little screens of text between levels. In Half-Life, your narrative was actually the world.
Yeah, no, exactly. So, and plus, Valve did a whole lot of work with pushing AI even further with Half-Life, the original Half-Life. AI was literally waves of enemies running at you for the most part until Half-Life came around, and then they actually had tactical stuff, and they would flush you out with grenades if they couldn't find you and they thought you were hiding somewhere. That stuff was all new, when Half-Life came out. So, Half-Life 1 really changed everything. And
it was definitely groundbreaking for its time.
Yeah. So, let's do this. I'll take a quick break. And then I'll do my impressions, and then we can have our weekly DayZ discussion, which seems to happen every week because they do update that fucking thing every week. So we'll do that, and then we'll do some news. Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right. Yeah. All right, everybody. We'll be back in about 5-10 minutes. Thanks.
Ludicrous speed! Go!
Hey guys, we are back. All right, nice one, Bob. Bob's always kidding around. This is serious business, Bob. Serious business. We won't have your tomfoolery. All right. So I want to talk about Dawnguard a little bit. So I downloaded the Dawnguard DLC for Skyrim. So there's good and bad things about it. I can't do this for looking at it like that. Excuse me.
Alright, tell me about the Dawnguard.
You're part of the Dawnguard. So we all know it's about vampires and fighting vampires, and it basically introduces another faction. They added a lot of cool stuff into Skyrim, just kind of generally. That I haven't updated the game in a little while, so it's a possibility this stuff was added to previous updates. Like I know that mounted combat was added into previous updates, but they kind of do like other cool stuff. Like they made some really smart menu decisions. So let's say you have like a companion, right? And you pretty much use them as a mule. That's pretty much the only reason you bring a companion around is to hold your shit. But they also have a weight. The companions actually do have a weight limit, and if they're reaching that weight limit and you can't trade something with them, that line item will be grayed out in your menu. You know, so many of the things that won't be grayed out are the things that you can actually trade, and that goes for working with merchants or stuff that you can carry if you're reaching your weight limit. So it's really good. You can actually like make the most of your inventory and carrying stuff around, which I really like. I think they added in, like, they did a lot of stealth additions as well, like new animations, new NPC lines, new places. I mean, I kind of said that I found some new places, and I did find new places, and I still find new places in freaking Fallout 3 when I pop it in every once in a while. But they added places that I'm positive weren't there before, like sunken ships and encampments and things like that. So I think they actually did some stealth updating to the world in general. So anyway, Dawnguard, you can join the Dawnguard who are fighting the vampires, or you can join the vampires. If you join the vampires, you get to become a vampire lord, which now vampires and werewolves have their own perk trees, which is pretty cool. I haven't looked at the werewolf perk tree yet, but the vampire lord perk tree has some pretty interesting stuff, and a lot of it's most of it's kind of magic based. So you have vampire sight, drain life spells. You have I don't know if it's I haven't used it yet. I haven't picked this perk yet, but you can actually pull someone from a distance and bring them to you, and then do like choking damage and stuff. And then
choke.
What's up?
Force choke.
Like a force choke, yeah, almost like a force choke. But you actually go into vampire lord form, which is very reminiscent of like being a werewolf form, and that's kind of where my biggest problem with this DLC occurs. And it seems like more and more, especially they added a whole bunch of new camera kills for ranged combat magic, and then more cam kills, like cinematic kills for melee combat. More and more, like, they're pulling you out of first-person view and putting you into third-person, and it's kind of starting to ruin it for me a little bit. Especially when it comes to being the vampire lord. When you become vampire lord, you can only be in third person, and I know they want to show like the model off, and it's the same thing with the werewolf. But they probably want to show the model off and stuff. But it takes you out of the element. It takes you out of the world, and it seems to me to be kind of completely unnecessary. You don't need to put the person into put the player into third person to sort of give them a sense that they've gone through a transformation. And if any game has taught us that you don't need to do that, it's the Darkness. The Darkness, even the first Darkness and the second Darkness, that game does a fantastic job of giving you that sense of transformation while retaining the first-person viewpoint. And I don't know why Bethesda doesn't do it that way. Why they feel like insistent on throwing you into third person. I mean, they throw you into third person when you're on a horse now. There's no first person mode on a horse. And maybe there is. Maybe there is for PC and there's mods for it. But
I'm sure they modded the hell out of it.
Yeah, but on the console, like it forces you to be in third person. And it doesn't matter that they added mounted combat, because I'm never going to fucking use mounts because they throw me into third person. I don't want to ride around Skyrim in third person. I mean, I know they did a lot of more work on their models and their animations, but in third person, like, Skyrim is still a little janky looking, and it just, that world isn't built for a third person viewpoint. It's built to be great in first person, and I don't know, they keep on doing this, and it seems more and more and more and more.
I think it's the character animations have never been really solid in a Bethesda game, and when you are forced to watch your own character animations, then it kind of pulls you out of that.
Yeah.
Well, not just pulls you out in being in third person, literally, but also in metaphorically with watching this goofy ass character do these really weird unnatural movements. Like, at least in first person, a lot of that's hidden. You don't see your blows trying to connect to the enemy. You just see from your perspective, you see the sword swipe or whatever. It's blowjobs. So you get a facial view, front row seat. So the money shot's just right there. You don't have to watch it from afar. I mean, it's really.
You know what makes a blowjob better?
What's that?
A third person.
That's too true.
I was just going on a slight tangent. I'm just looking at the chat. Someone says, "Who's the 90s grunge-looking dude on the left?" I'll take that as a compliment.
You have, I think you've been officially named the new token British guy.
Okay.
Now that
Well,
Jack isn't around as much anymore.
I can live with that.
Some pretty big shoes to fill, but
Okay.
I think you're upstairs. So, so it just kind of annoys me. Like, I don't even like. So, some of the Vampire Lord abilities you can use when you're just in normal form, when you're, whatever race you are, it just, they work. But all the cool kind of stuff is only done, in Vampire Lord form, and I don't want to go into Vampire Lord form because it throws you into third person, and everything just looks kind of janky. So I don't know. I'm really disappointed in that. I wish they would mod in a way. I'm still blown away that they haven't fixed the fact that you can't be in first person on a horse. I mean, that I would use mounts all the time if I was in first person. I think that would look really cool. But I don't know. I don't mind. Personally, I don't really mind like the stealth kill cams, or I'm sorry, the cinematic kill cams. I don't mind the rage kill cams. Those are okay. It's because they're quick, they add a little bit of flair. I think maybe they can still be done a little bit better because, once again, even those cinematic kill cams, the animations in Skyrim are kind of janky, and they don't always look good. When you slit somebody's throat with a mace, it doesn't look good.
Yes, exactly. I played through the game using a mace, and I would stab through a dragon's head with a mace, which is quite a feat.
Well, you are Dragonborn. You are Dragonborn.
Yeah, I was Dragonborn. It was just, I would bludgeon people to death with this mace like it was a knife. It was terrible.
Yeah. So,
You're talking about first and third person's perspectives. One of the really interesting things about video games in general, I think, is just you playing it and then watching how someone else plays it. I, like you, played Skyrim in first person. I gave it to my sister to play for a bit, and she couldn't play it in first person.
Really?
She had to play it in third person, which I thought was really interesting. Because obviously some people just can't. And I've seen other people play first person games, like who weren't really into video games, and they find it a really strange experience. Whereas third person, it's like a bit easier to get your bearings on an environment when you can see what your character is doing.
That's interesting. Yeah, I know there's people who actually will get like seasick or car sick from first person viewpoints.
Oh yeah.
They get motion sickness. So that could be an issue. And yeah, I mean, I don't know, like you certainly can't play Oblivion in third person because that game just looks like shite in third person. Yeah, it's just really bad. But yeah, so other than my issues with Bethesda now continually throwing yourself in a third person, the story itself is pretty good. It's not. One thing you have to keep in mind about Dawnguard is that this is a DLC. It's not an expansion. So keep your hopes for how much content it is in here. Kind of medium. I mean, there's a lot of content, but it's not like it's not like a Shivering Isles or something like that, which added like a whole new world. You will be
Just to relative the scale, would it be something like the Mages Guild quest line? For length?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
You go to these different worlds. You go into some place called, I don't want to ruin it for you. You go into this alternative universe for a little while. I believe you go into a few of them. I haven't finished the DLC yet, but you go into one of them, and it's a pretty large area. But it's also not very interesting. It's kind of barren, and a lot of stuff happens there. And there's some quests there's some fetch quests in this area that require you to find all these little pages, and it's a side quest. But it's like finding all these little pages in this fairly barren, uninteresting environment seems like the most tedious thing in the world. And maybe I'll go back and do this quest when I've done everything else there possibly is to do. But as of right now, I can't see myself going back. And actually, the quest is actually called something like the Bane of the Impatient, actually, or something similar to that. The word patience is in there, and it's very fitting. But the vampire stuff is pretty cool. They have a whole new hold, so you go to the vampire castle, and that's pretty cool looking. I wish it was a little more like Castlevania-y, but it's actually pretty neat. But yeah, I think if I was to put it toward anything it's about the size of like one of the big like guild quests, like the Mage Guild or the Dark Brotherhood or something like that.
Right. Do they have whips?
There's no whips.
God damn it.
No, they do. They added crossbows though.
Yeah, I saw the crossbows.
Yeah, the
I was
crossbows.
hoping there would be whips.
Crossbows don't have their own perk tree though. I don't think. At least I didn't get to it. Maybe that happens if you go more with the Dawnguard, but they don't. From what I saw, don't have their own perk tree, and they're okay. I love crossbows. I'm not sure if I'm really into how they were. Slacker Chat is saying I need to find the vampire skooma den. I have done that. I've done that part, Chris. It's actually pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good things in this DLC. I would totally recommend it for anyone who wants to like expand their Skyrim experience.
So you were saying before the Dawnguard and the vampires, their perk trees, are they new constellations?
Well, the Vampire Lord. So you go into in the form. So you basically have a new constellation for Vampire Lord, which has its new perks, and then werewolves are also given perks. Dawnguard, I don't think have perks necessarily. You know, like there's no like Dawnguard perk tree. I don't believe.
Okay.
People can maybe let me know if I'm mistaken, because I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that branch of this DLC. I went with the vampire people because they're pretty cool. But it's definitely like a little constellation. It's kind of weird because you can't get to the constellation unless you're in Vampire Lord form. So okay. Here's how it works. So normal Skyrim playthrough, hit B and you go up and all of your perk trees are there, all your perk constellations are there. You won't find the Vampire Lord one in amongst those. If you go into Vampire Lord form and hit B, it immediately takes you to the Vampire Lord constellation. Now,
and just the Vampire Lord constellation? There's no other one?
Exactly, just the Vampire Lord constellation.
Probably because they didn't want to have to redo the entire original constellations because they were
they'd have to
circular.
Yeah,
you'd have to open up a new spot.
Yeah,
or have to try to fit it in somewhere
exactly.
awkwardly.
And the only way you get perks or raise levels in Vampire Lord form is if you kill people while in Vampire Lord form. So, remember how I said I don't want to go into Vampire Lord form?
Yeah.
If I want to like raise my levels as a Vampire Lord and get more perks, I have to go into Vampire Lord form and kill people that way.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah. And going into Vampire Lord form and coming out of it is really slow. Because
Oh god, I hate that.
It works.
It's like the same thing with Werewolf, where it's just like this. At least it's a 5 or 10 second long transition, but still you have to do it every time. It's so bad.
And there's this weird sort of delay. So you'll hit your right trigger to trigger it, and then there's a delay of like 3 seconds, and then he goes into like this transformation thing, and then you're a Vampire Lord form in fucking third person, floating. You either float around and do your magic stuff. So like right hand will be like this life drain bolt or like life drain magic thing, and your left hand will like do like a raise dead spell. So you can like kill someone and then raise them dead, raise them up, and then they'll fight for you while you kill other people. So I mean it's kind of cool. But then if you want to go back into normal form, you have to hit the right trigger again after you pick the spell, and then there's another 3 second delay. And then it goes transforms back down. It's very kind of awkward. So.
Yeah, and you still have the whole day-night vulnerabilities.
Yeah, so here's how they do, which is kind of interesting. So when you're in the daytime, you're not restricted to nighttime, but in the daytime, if you're in direct sunlight, you lose 40 points of health. 40 points of stamina and magicka, I believe. And stamina, magicka, and health do not regenerate when you're in the light. So your stamina doesn't even regenerate. So if you run and you use up all your stamina, like your stamina's gone unless you go inside or go out of direct sunlight, and then it'll rejuvenate. Also, after you feed, you're actually fairly weak. If you keep going without feeding over a number of days, you actually become more powerful. So you become more powerful with your powers, but you become weaker in terms of your health and magicka and stamina.
Right, and eventually people become entirely hostile to you because they can just recognize that you're a vampire.
Yeah, exactly.
I actually gave up on my first playthrough of Skyrim because I became a vampire, and it was such a pain in the ass. It was like every time, because that's not how I wanted to play the game, to go around murdering people. But when you go into the villages, when you become a vampire, you're not really given any choice, and like quest important characters are hostile to you as well for the most part. I think so. in the end, I just gave up and started over again.
Yeah, they've actually pulled back on that somewhat, so you can go into towns now and they won't attack you on sight, which is good. It'll be like, you look sick, or why are you so pale? You know what I mean?
Well, they say that whenever you have any kind of disease.
Yeah, basically. So they kind of pulled back on that a little bit, so you can still actually go around and do your stuff. So as you don't feed over a number of nights, like I said, you physically become weaker in terms of health, magic, and stamina. But they start giving you more abilities. So like you'll actually like start getting more spells and more vampire spells and more vampire abilities to use. But if you feed, you physically become rejuvenated, but you lose all of those spells again, which is kind of weird. So you're always trying to keep yourself in like this semi-fed sort of state, or there's be like, I want to do this quest, but I figured, oh, well, these vampire spells I want to use, so I actually have to go to a town and sleep or wait for like 2 days to get those like spells back, which is kind of annoying. You know, I understand how they did it. I understand why they did it, and their thinking is the fact that, you know, as you become weaker, your animalistic senses become heightened because you're hungry, so you get more of these powers to actually be able to feed easier. But the fact is, those powers are really cool, and I wish I could just have them all the time, just be a vampire, and be able to do that stuff, you know?
So now, as a vampire lord, does your blood drain abilities count as feeding?
No.
Okay.
You actually have to go and feed on somebody. Now, well, you don't actually have to feed on a person, because there's also blood vials you can get from your hold, from the vampire hold, and they count as like feeding. But if you feed, you lose some of these cool abilities that you have. So it's like, I just wish you could just gain levels normally, you know.
Just become a better vampire.
Just become a better vampire. You know, which maybe that happens. Maybe toward the way the quest is going, the quest is all about, or the main quest line you're on with these vampire people is all about being able to thrive in sunlight. And Bob is disappearing. It's basically all about being able to thrive in sunlight. So maybe at the conclusion of this storyline, you know, you get that ability and you get all these vampire abilities. So you become, you're able to be a vampire without any of the ill effects. So we'll see.
Yeah, I was gonna say if there isn't, there's probably a mod for it.
Yeah, but I'm on a console with this.
Well, too bad.
I know. I'm not gonna buy it for my and plus my shitty computer. It's not going to be. Skyrim will look better on my Xbox than it will look on my computer at this point.
No.
That's the same situation I'm in. If I'd have bought Skyrim for the laptop you're currently seeing me on, it would look really bad.
Yeah, the one that just overheated and shut off.
The one that just overheated, blew up, and I had to restart. So, yeah, I'm playing it on my Xbox.
Yeah.
I'd like to play it on a big high-end PC rig, but I can't afford one. So
yeah, I mean, I don't feel bad about how. I mean, Skyrim looks beautiful on the Xbox 360. I'm actually like, every time I load Skyrim up and I go into the world, I'm like, holy shit, this game's pretty. Even on this like little machine with 516 megabytes of RAM, it's like, god damn, this is a pretty fucking game. You know. But anyway,
imagine it turned up an Ultra on a HD screen with 1080p with all the settings tweaked all the way up. 6 gigabytes of RAM.
You saw it?
That's what I have.
Oh.
That's why I play it. It's awesome.
Jesus Christ. I'm coming over. We're gonna have Skyrim time.
It is very pretty.
I bet. But anyway, you know, the DLC is still good, even with all my kind of petty complaints. It's still Skyrim and it's still awesome. It's a great little addition to expanding the game. I'm really looking forward to what the first big expansion is going to be. You know, when they were talking about how they were going to handle the post-game releases, they said, you know, they weren't going to do like little things like horse armor and that kind of stuff. They were going to concentrate on bigger releases. Yeah. And I'm hoping, like this is DLC. It's not really an expansion. It's not that big. And I'm hoping they are actually working on a big expansion for this game. You know, I appreciate that they're not, like I said, selling, you know, horse armor and things like that. But I do want to see them add to this world and you know, maybe give like, you know, like Morrowind, you know, like this new engine treatment, you know, which I guess is destroyed by volcano now, so you can't really. It'd be kind of weird. So, you know, we'll see.
Someone in the chat mentioned that being cured of being a vampire is really easy, and they've just reminded me of why I'm now embracing looking up stuff on the internet.
Yes, yeah.
Actually, looking at walkthroughs and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, it used to be back in Daggerfall, if you contracted vampirism or lycanthropy, it would people would just give you notes randomly, and they say, oh, if you you know go to this town and talk to this dude, he can cure you of lycanthropy or vampirism. And you'd have to go and start a quest that way. So it was rather direct. I think there might be something similar to that in Skyrim, where every once in a while you get the couriers that run up to you and give you notes and shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think that does happen in Skyrim. So if you are ill, then they'll actually give you a note saying, "Go talk to this dude in this one town." But I think you can only do it once, right?
I think so. I don't know. I've never. So at the beginning of Skyrim, I pretty much became a werewolf pretty quickly, which I never used werewolf because it put me in third person, and I didn't enjoy being a werewolf. I stayed a werewolf only because I couldn't get any diseases, and it was really cool. I didn't have to worry about that. So I was like, all right, great. I won't get any diseases. Like I never got any resting bonuses, but I really wasn't interested in burning through levels anyway, so it never was an issue for me. But with the vampirism, there's actually I have a side quest that I don't recall how I got it actually, but it talks about some guy in a town that has been working on curing vampirism. So you have that option. It seems like it's pretty straightforward. But then again, I don't think you can become a vampire again. I think then you actually have to switch over and do Dawnguard stuff at that point.
Okay, so Chris says that you can be cured multiple times. It just requires a black soulstone.
Oh, okay.
Black soul crystal. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, Blizzard.
I will say this as well. I've been playing a whole lot of Dragon's Dogma. So basically, I stopped playing Skyrim and I started playing Dragon's Dogma. And I'll tell you, going back to Skyrim now after Dragon's Dogma, I wish they kept a lot of those RPGs, statistical elements in the Skyrim games and had sort of the loot system that Dragon's Dogma has, because that would make it so great. I really miss the loot of Dragon's Dogma when I'm playing Skyrim, and all those great all the effects and all the different pieces and stuff like that. It's just I wish Skyrim didn't. I wish Bethesda didn't streamline Skyrim as much as they did. And I see why they did it, and I think they wanted to focus more on story and getting the player into the world itself as an organic thing, and not have them worry so much about things like constitution and all these different armor pieces with this different attributes to it. I think they wanted to kind of make it a little bit more of, like I said, an organic, streamlined experience. But the RPG lover in me really loves that stuff. And I get that fix when I play like a Dragon's Dogma, and I really feel like Skyrim kind of suffers because it doesn't have it a little bit.
Yeah, there's a lot you can do with that amount of stats and whatnot. You can really tweak builds and kind of create a very, very high performance build.
Yeah, and and the thing too, I mean, when you take all the stats out, invariably the loot suffers, because what makes the loot cool is how it interacts with your character. And basically, if you look at all the loot in Skyrim, if you want to even call it loot, I just call them items, because when you think of loot, you think of oh, this is an awesome thing. But in Skyrim, you just have items. All the items attributes are undead up to level 3 flee, or does burning damage, or does electrical damage. And that's it. And it's just, I don't know, it's not as alluring. I go through. If there's no treasure, why am I in this dungeon? Why am I dungeon crawling through this labyrinth, fighting these skeletons and these trolls to get a knife that isn't as good as the one I currently have, because
or it has no chance of even being better than it,
or isn't that great to begin with.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sort of, it takes some of that carrot. There's no carrot on a stick. I mean, I find myself, if I go into dungeons now, it's sort of just to kind of go through and see what's in there and kind of enjoy, just kind of enjoy doing the action. But the reward, the payoff, is now so minimal that it's sort of not really. it hasn't captured me anymore, you know. And not only that, I mean, even the act of going through and fighting things in Skyrim isn't all that enjoyable because the combat system is kind of you know. But
Yeah.
it's
not very. It doesn't evolve. Really.
Yeah, I mean the combat system in Skyrim was never that good, and better than Oblivion, of course. But you know, that tactile feedback just isn't there, and it really, you know, it really came to the forefront after I spent so much time playing Dragon's Dogma, and the combat there, and then the loot payoff there is so much better, you know. But it's kind of strange. It seems like Bethesda, like they're kind of torn. They're making an RPG, and it's supposed to be fantastical, but they seem to want it to still be grounded in this sort of reality, and it seems to be kind of holding them back, or holding the creativity back just a little bit, because they don't want it to be too fantastical, you know, for whatever reason. You know, I mean, in Dragon's Dogma, you get to the point where you have like these giant swords and stuff that are like glowing and do all this kind of cool stuff, and I'm like, well, that's awesome. Like, why can't we have that in Skyrim? You know, so. I don't know. I finally finished the College of Winterhold quest, and I was so happy to be like fighting a skeleton dragon under a cave, you know. And I was like, "This is cool. This is what I want. I want more stuff like this, you know." Like,
Yeah, the College of Winterhold quests were fucking awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Like some of the quest lines are the best parts of that game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like it's more of a story driven rather than a loot driven or kind of a exploration driven.
Yeah, and that's kind of what Skyrim's all about. It really like. I think, you know, as much as I do love Skyrim, you know, I think these are the reasons why when I reviewed Dragon's Dogma, I kind of scored it higher, you know, than Skyrim for myself.
100%.
I did. So, I mean, Skyrim's still a fucking, you know, 95, but still, it's just, you know, and a lot of this is direction stuff. I think we talked about this last week, but I'm just hoping that in Fallout 3, they retain a lot of those statistical elements in the final version of the game. But I guess we'll see next year at some point when they announce it.
Fallout 3?
I mean, Fallout 4.
Yeah. Did they announce that?
No, but you know they're making it.
Yeah.
But my only real complaint with Skyrim was the delivery of the voice acting, which I felt was just like, it wasn't terrible. Again, it's like
way
it's like
better than Oblivion.
it is better than Oblivion, but again, it's kind of that worst kind of voice acting, which isn't like Resident Evil so bad it's good, but it's not like Eternal Darkness so good it's good.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I found myself on my second playthrough, I found myself just skimming through a lot of the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't actually played the DLC, but is the voice acting pretty much on the same level?
Yeah, it's about on the same level. I mean, it's not. You're right. It's sort of. It's just kind of there, you know. No one's winning any awards for it, but it's not terrible either. It's just sort of there, you know.
Yeah.
But, anyway, so besides Dawnguard, God, I haven't really played much of anything else. I had a really crazy week last week, and I got Dawnguard this week toward the weekend. I just been like burning through that all weekend. So that's pretty much what I've been playing. Is there any video game news? What the hell's been going on? I feel like I said I like haven't even been hardly near the internet this week. Lay it on me, Bob. Give it to me.
Video
Give
games.
it to me. It's video games.
Video games. News with the video games.
Video game with the news. The chat is reminding me. Is there any new DayZ updates that we need to know about?
Not yet. They did a whole slew of updates all the way up to I think we're on. Christ, I can't even remember what it is. It's like is it 1715?
Mm-hmm.
Is it, what is that? It's some big ass number like that. There was a 172 is the next thing that's coming out. It's not out yet. That's the next big patch they're doing. They did a bunch of hot fixes like 2 weeks ago. They were releasing one every practically every 12 hours.
Oh wow.
It was ridiculous. It was so quick. But the 172 is pretty imminent. I think it's probably going to be. He's been talking about doing it for like the last week, so it's probably going to come out this week, if not tomorrow. I think it fixes up a couple things. I noticed, like, I've been playing. Actually, I played with Chris a lot this last week.
Chris has been complaining that you haven't been playing enough with him.
Yeah,
Chris Davis is very upset at you, Bob.
yes, I've been neglecting our relationship in Daisy,
He's going to ask for a divorce. I know it.
yeah. Well, he does play a female character in Daisy, so we're married in game.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, but we have a funny relationship. So
I heard you guys
pretty
broke
much-
your legs together and were stuck under an underpass.
So all right, so that's one of the things that is a problem with the current patch, or at least the patches leading up to this, is it's very easy for you to break bones, incredibly easy for you to break bones.
Right.
So Chris and I ended up going into a town to find a car to repair, and we ended up crawling into a high-yield barn. A zombie ran up to me. I was at full health. He came up to me, one hit, broke both my legs. So I crawled into the barn because, of course, I can't stand up. So I crawl into the barn, try to get onto the stairs. Like, I can't go up the stairs because my legs are fucking broken. I can't even crawl up the stairs. And we ended up killing all the zombies out there. And we were stuck in this town, like fucking middle of nowhere. It's way up north, and we don't have any morphine. We have no morphine. This is the only thing that you can use to repair bones.
Right.
For some reason, because of course morphine does that.
It does. It fuses bones together. It's a medical miracle.
Yes, yeah.
Medical
We were in Gorka or Gorky, some kind of
Gorky
someplace
is
there.
what Chris is
Gorky. Yeah. No, it's Gorka. It's an A. So Chris was like, all right, there are a couple buildings around here that may have morphine spawns in there. So I'm going to go over there and find it. So this town is just fucking full of zombies. And he wanders into, can't even really find the building that I'm trying to describe him on the map. And he ends up getting stuck in another building, and both of his legs are broken. So we both end up crawling around in this zombie-infested town, bleeding profusely. Both of our legs are broken, and we are miles from the closest hospital. So eventually,
Sounds like a standard night out in England, to be honest.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, we didn't want to get on the tube. We couldn't drink on the tube, so we just decided we're just gonna. Yeah, we logged out there, and Chris eventually came back on and restarted, killed his character basically, went back into a hospital and picked up a bunch of morphine, walked all the way back to the town where I was. This is all during the day when I was at work or something. And when I came back on a day or two later, he had the morphine to repair my legs.
Oh, okay. So he logged out. He logged out next to you in the same location.
Yeah. Basically, he had to sacrifice himself to save me. Because
Sweet. That's a touching story.
It's a very, very touching story. And I have on my character, I have an Alice backpack, which is the second to biggest bag in the game. I also have an MP5A5, which is it's a rare gun. And the next time we went out, we ended up going up north because we decided, oh hell, we're gonna go wander to the hospital, try to pick up more morphine and whatnot. He had a bunch of morphine on him, but we want to be able to get more. And as we were like, well, we'll just wander by and hit a couple deer stands on the way up. And as he's going up into a deer stand, I hear this bam, bam, bam. And I see him fall over. I turn around, just to my right, there's a fucking bandit that has shot Chris. And there's a bunch of zombies around these deer stands, and the zombies ran up to the bandit. I was about to shoot at him, but the zombies got to him first, knocked him down. Because that's another thing that zombies will do very easily in this patch is they'll knock you unconscious and start to eat you. You can wake back up and kill him, but they knocked him down. As he was falling down, he quit the game. So I couldn't kill him. And this is just after Chris had, gotten all the morphine, repaired me, and we run around, got a bunch of good gear again, finally, and then Chris died again. So my character who was, when I first started this character, I was down on the beach in Kemerovo, or whatever that is place, when we first started Meet Up, I had 4,000 blood. And in the game, you have 12,000 is the total. If you're under 6,000, you'll pass out randomly. And it's really bad. I started this character, God, weeks ago. And I ended up somehow meeting up with Chris, getting myself nursed back up to health, breaking my legs, having Chris kill himself so he could actually fix my legs, and then repairing me again, getting enough blood back, wandering out, having Chris get shot again. So my guy has survived all of this while Chris has died multiple times to keep me alive. So it's,
And he sacrificed
God,
himself for you.
Yeah, we were running around killing so many cows. Like we were
Cows?
yeah, because there's cows and goats. I was down about 4,000 blood, and I needed blood so bad. We didn't have any blood bags, nothing like that. The only way you can get blood back, other from a blood transfusion will put you up at max, is to eat food. And the food that gives you the most blood is meat, cooked meat.
Right.
So we wandered up north, and we finally found this kind of farm area, and we saw this cow in the middle of the field. I'm like, holy shit, a fucking cow. You can get like 8 meat off of a cow. And that's more than enough to heal me all the way back up to max. And so we started sneaking up on this cow, and this cow just wandered like back into towards this town, which is infested with zombies. We were chasing this cow for at least like 10 solid minutes because it kept turning around and going back into a group of zombies. We didn't want to startle the zombies because they'd come and fucking kick our ass. There was probably about 50 zombies in the area. And some of the more recent patches, like you shoot a zombie and the noise was off. I think this might have been 1714. So even if they weren't supposed to hear you, they would still get pulled. So even if you were on the edge of town and you shot one zombie, you'd get every single zombie in town. So we're trying to be as cautious as fuck, just chasing this cow slowly. I had no weapon. I had no gun at this point. I just had an axe. So I was crawling behind this cow with my hatchet, swinging at it, trying to kill this fucking cow before it ran back into this group of zombies. And eventually we ended up killing it and harvesting its meat and healing myself back up. And then, Chris died. That's pretty much been the theme of it, is every time I play with Chris, he dies. Which is kind of surprising. He wants to go play with me.
And he wants to play with you again.
Yeah, I know. We're going to have to eventually, I guess tomorrow night we'll try to play it again. I know we'll probably end up playing it more during this week of crazy community-driven shit. So, yeah. Eventually, I'm assuming at some point I'm gonna have to die for Chris. But now I have 2 rare guns. I have a Glock and an MP5A5. So it's
You can't die.
I actually have I can't
die.
die. I'm 2 of a high-value target.
But see, now everyone knows that you're a high-value target. Everyone knows you're carrying good stuff. You just made
pretty rare shit.
yourself a target. Is what you just
Yeah, but I've changed my character name. No one really knows.
Oh, that's good.
Can recognize me on the server, so I'm safe. I'm part of the Witness Protection Agency. So
There you go.
they're watching my back.
George, have you played any DayZ yet?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Is
it good?
It's
fun.
very good. Yeah.
You kind of make your own game out of it, since a lot of it is it's pretty much, you realize very quickly that your main enemy is not the zombies, it's the other players. It's pretty much the entire game. If you see a person and you're out in the middle of the wilderness, you just shoot first, ask questions later, unless they're obviously not interested in you.
Yeah.
And usually that's not the case.
Yeah.
They want your beans.
They want your beans.
They are bean bandits. They will come after you and take your beans.
That would be a great group, like a guild, like the Bean Bandits.
The clan, the Bean Bandit clan.
The Bean Bandit clan. So. Oh man. All right. You guys have anything else?
I played Halo 2.
What year?
A couple of years back.
What year is
it? Oh, I know. Well, it's because so this was the thing where I've only ever played Halo 1. And I really didn't really understand like why Halo 1 was that great, because for a console FPS, yeah, it was awesome. I mean, it was one of the first console first-person shooters that did it right. But for someone that played PC games primarily, it was mediocre.
Yeah.
Because I played awesome first-person shooters. I played Half-Life.
Yeah.
Halo 1 doesn't even compare to Half-Life.
No, not at all. Yeah.
No, but so I decided, well, it's about time I actually start trying to play the Halo games because Halo 4 is coming out, and I haven't played Halo 2 or 3 or ODST or Reach. So I decided, well, you know what? I'm going to try to, figure out what's all this about and pick it up and start playing it. And so far, Halo 2 actually, despite being, God, how many years old now? Fucking 8 years old.
Almost 10 years old by now.
Almost 10 years old. Yeah, it's still a decent game. I'm surprised at how well it holds up.
Yeah.
It's funny you should say that because I went and played the first Halo game about a year ago, I think, because I hadn't played it before, and I'm not sure about the multiplayer, but the single player was just such a chore to get through.
Oh, yeah.
It starts off all right, but then once you get to, I think it's the library level, about halfway through-ish, and it's just, I think, for a game that's got like 97% on Metacritic, it was actually, I think, it was such a chore.
They keep reusing the same goddamn rooms.
Yeah, yeah.
The same room after the same room after the same room, same room, same enemies, same room, same room, same enemies. Oh, this room is actually inverted. Same enemies. Instead I go right instead of
yeah. You're just following arrows on the floor and
Yeah.
shooting guys, and that's pretty much it. And the vehicle sections are horrible as well. I mean, I know some people like them, but I just can't stand the warthog and all that.
He's kind of. I think Bob. I think you actually nailed it right there when you said. And I think probably the same reason I never really was a big Halo fan is probably because I was a PC gamer, and I had played Half-Life in what 99, 2000.
Yeah.
I was playing. So and it was a fantastic first-person shooter. I was playing. I was getting in vehicles in Battlefield 1942. Way back. So like the fact that there was a Warthog in Halo didn't do anything for me because it was like, well, I can play Battlefield and get in any vehicle I want. It wasn't a new thing.
Yeah.
And I think that really kind of nails it to why I never really became that allured with that game. I will admit that Halo is the first one to get it right on consoles probably, but in terms of FPSs in general, there was so much better stuff out there before that.
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah, that's definitely why I had such a stigma against Halo. I was like, this is nothing compared to what I was playing even years before Halo came out.
Yeah. I think Halo Reach is probably the only Halo game that I kind of really enjoyed. I didn't really like ODST all that much, but I thought Halo 4 was a fun game, and it didn't seem, whereas the previous Halos, because of my PC gaming, seemed like they just weren't up to snuff. Halo 4 seems to me like, okay, well, this is at least a contemporary shooter, in this universe, and I'm interested to see what they do at 4. I mean, I'll play it definitely. What I've seen so far doesn't really look like anything too new to me. Everyone talks about the Master Chief redesign, and it's not a redesign. They just gave him more detail. It's not redesigned at all. He looks exactly the same. They just gave his armor a little more detail. So it kind of annoys me when people talk about that. But Halo, anything involved with Halo can do no wrong in a lot of people's eyes, and we'll see though. I'm retaining judgment until I play it.
Yeah, I'm going through. I really feel like it's about time I played through the Halos. Like I played through all the Gears of Wars. Like I never even touched a Gears of War until I actually picked up a 360. Yeah, I didn't pick up a 360 until. It might have actually been a year ago.
That's another game where I played through Gears of War 3 last year, and again I didn't play the multiplayer. I'll go back to that at some point, but I played through the single player, and that was such a chore. It's such a chore to play through a game that's so monotonous like that.
Yeah.
And there's nothing but laboriously shooting through a bunch of aliens and just fuck all else, really.
Yeah. I will say that the Gears of War 3 is better when co-op. I mean, that's kind of weird.
I played the entire game co-op, so I didn't have the whole. I don't even know if I would have finished it, but I played it solo.
Yeah, I mean, Gears of War 3 shines when you're playing it on the harder difficulty levels with other people, because that's when sort of communication comes into it and whatnot. But if you're playing alone on like normal, it is sort of a chore, George, you were going to say something else, I think.
They just shouldn't bother with a single player at all, really. Then I don't think.
Well, I think they have to, because not everyone has internet access or a good internet access. There's a lot of America, at least, that is still on dial-up. I mean, they're...
Well, then they should just put a sticker on the front of the box saying this game is shit if you don't have the internet.
That would be good. Yeah.
Let's have the shit if you play it single player sticker.
Mm-hmm.
You can put that on a Battlefield 3.
Oh god, that's another one that was crap in single player.
Oh god.
But Battlefield 3 has some of the most bullshit quick time events I think I've ever played in a game. I mean, I don't know if you guys can think of any worse quick time
I can
games.
Definitely.
Go on.
The end of the new Ace Combat game.
Oh, I didn't play that one. So.
There's quick time events in that?
So in the Ace Combat game, I think it's Ace Combat game. At the very end, the final scene of the game, everyone's cheering at you and stuff, and you're coming out of your plane, and then like there's like a girl next to you, and then you kind of like you look down at your fist, and there's an X prompt comes up, and you hit X, and then you fist pump into the air.
What if you press Y?
I don't think anything happens.
You just leave them hanging? I mean,
Yeah, it just maybe it just ends. I don't know.
You lose the war?
Yeah, you lose the war. The enemy rises from their graves and becomes a zombie army. But yeah, it's a fist bump. It's basically like a fist pump, quick time event. But no, but the single player Battlefield 3 was shit. It was complete shit for multiple reasons. I mean, as on its face as a single player, corridor shooter, it was shit. It tried to do a Call of Duty type of thing, but did a shitty job of it. But the biggest sin is the fact that it's fucking Battlefield. It's supposed to be about wide open areas with vehicular combat, not a fucking corridor crawl. Even areas that were supposedly open up in that game you were still limited in your movement, because if you moved away from the area a little bit, you got that get back to the fight, soldier, or you'll be killed sort of thing. It was ridiculous. I mean, you look at like Bad Company, right? The original Bad Company, I think even Bad Company 2 had some more wide areas, but not as much. But the original Bad Company had really big areas, and it should have been more like that. Battlefield 3 single player should have been almost like an open world game where you have the areas you have to reach, you have your objectives, and then it's this giant area, almost like the multiplayer game, and it's like go and do your objective however you want. Get in a tank, get in a helicopter, just do it, and it's all AI. That's how it should have been.
Well, I have a theory about this, and it's that it's all based off the Frostbite 2 engine, right?
Right.
Well, I'm guessing that technology is so expensive, or it takes so much manpower or whatever, that they want you to look at very specific things, which is why it's so linear. So basically, it's like playing a really crap film, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think DICE was just, trying to directly compete with the Call of Duty franchise. And didn't realize that they already had their own thing that was fantastic, and they didn't need to copy Call of Duty in order to compete, And I think now the single player, I mean, no one gives a shit about the single player of Battlefield anymore, no one does. But I think they finally found their footing, in the multiplayer and the multiplayer expansions, and I think they've sort of reached that point to where they are doing a great job of directly competing with Call of Duty. And I'm seeing a lot of people leaving Call of Duty now because the recent Call of Duty games, they kind of fucked up their multiplayer, and a lot of people are now just moving over to Battlefield. I see, when Battlefield 3 was first released, I had no problem getting into a game, and I only play hardcore games on Battlefield 3 because I prefer it. It's more tactical. I like that it's easier to kill people or be killed because it makes everyone a little more careful. It's not so much the meat grinder that single player can be. But I used to be able to, get right into games, and now it's like, there's queues all over the place. And I haven't seen any actual numbers, but it seems like the community, the Battlefield community has really kind of exploded in the past 6 months. So.
I can actually seek this into another thing that I was playing this week, which was, I went back to Modern Warfare 3, the latest Call of Duty game, and I keep going back to that because I think in general it's pretty mediocre in the single play, same thing as I was talking about before. But there's one mission where you're in the plane that is just so brilliantly done, and I think it's a shame because Infinity Ward are so good at making set pieces, And they work really well in those Call of Duty games. It's just that it's set pieces and shooting and nothing else, so it kind of gets really monotonous. But that plane section, when you're like, the turbulence makes you go into zero gravity and it all slows down.
Yeah.
That is just fucking awesome. I just keep going back to that mission. I think that is kind of one of it's up there with like the nuke level from the original Modern Warfare, or I don't know. It's one of the best Call of Duty moments, and it's a shame that they couldn't just have had more stuff going on for the rest of the game.
I totally agree with you. Like, there was that section, and then there was this section, with the submarine, when you're kind of going on the boat and you're going through the ships as they're exploding, right before you get into like New York City at the beginning. Like, I want what I want from the Call of Duty franchise is I want the entire game to be like that. Like those two scenes. I want it to be crazy, crazy, crazy stuff. I want it to be like, Dr. Strangelove sort of stuff, where you're riding rockets with a cowboy hat and going, woo! Like that's the shit. Like they should just like go full retard and make it crazy. Just make it crazy. Like, I want to be in a C-130, airplane and a tank that falls out of the sky, and then as I'm in the tank and I'm falling, I'm shooting jets out of the sky with the tank, like that type of shit. Like I think like Call of Duty should almost become like a military Saints Row game.
Yeah.
Like make it that fucking nuts, and then I would play it. Then I'd be totally into it. Make it like the craziest action movie you've ever seen in the world. And make it, I think that would like revitalize this that franchise. I think that people are like quickly like I think kind of getting tired of. Although I say that and they're like, well, Black Ops 2 just got more pre-orders than any other Call of Duty franchise game that came out. So I'm an asshole, I guess.
Well, and if you could punch bullets in that game, I would pre-order day one.
Would you punch bullets?
Punch bullets.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Or like
that,
at one point when you reach like a certain level, you just take a bunch of bullets and you put them in your mouth and you chew them up and then you spit them out machine gun style.
That submarine section you mentioned earlier is a really good example, because I really like that mission as well, and it's a really good example where you know that Infinity Ward haven't forgotten how to pace a mission, where it starts really sort of slow and tense and gradually builds up and up and up until you're like zooming through all these explosions in a speedboat, and then there's the plane mission. But I don't really remember anything else from the rest of the game.
Yeah, those are only like within the first hour, because I actually played those. I only played the first hour of the game.
But it's only like a 4-hour game anyway. So
that's
4
true.
or 5 hours.
Right. I was just gonna say something. What was I gonna say? God damn it! I had it, and then I was listening to George, and then I lost it again. It's about Call of Duty and being crazy and craziness and shit. I hate it when that happens. What were you saying? What was the first thing you said, George, when you going back to that? Oh, yes, I know. Okay, now I know what I was going to say. One thing you also notice about that submarine mission is it's a really long mission with multiple areas. Some of them, going from small to cramped, from small and cramped to like really big. There's no loading screens anywhere in that mission, which is really cool. They go from under the water to outside the sub to inside the sub to outside the sub again, and that speedboat thing with all the ships exploding, and there's not one loading screen that entire time, which I think is really great and like makes that. I think if there was any loading screens between those sections, I think it probably would have ruined that pacing that you were talking about.
Yeah, and a few months ago actually, I asked a question on, I think it was on Twitter or Facebook, like when we get the technology to completely eradicate loading screens, will anyone miss them? Like, I mean, because I guess like the most straightforward answer is no one. If we could get rid of those, then that it will make the experience completely seamless. But then when they made the Resident Evil remake on the GameCube, I think they deliberately kept in those long door opening sequences.
Oh yeah.
Because they were originally put in there just they were just disguised loading screens, but then they had to keep them in because without them people felt that the experience was just kind of felt wrong.
Right.
Well,
they added the tension.
Yeah, exactly. It has a dual purpose, is between loading and actually adding suspense and building suspense. Because you
Yeah.
don't, what's behind the door? I don't know. I'm gonna open it slowly. Am I gonna see it? When is something gonna pop out? What the fuck?
And that's just so inherently like that's just so Resident Evil. I mean at least the older games.
Yeah.
I mean I can see it in my head now, and I feel like I'm playing like like a little kid. The first Resident Evil stuff. So I don't know. We'll see what happens with this new Black Ops 2. From what I'm seeing, it looks so. I mean I don't know. It's just I want them to get crazy. Just get crazy for me. Make it insane. Stop taking yourself so fucking seriously.
Yeah. Just have a
You're
game where they
making
go
a
full retard.
You're making a video game. Make it fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to play a game where the bad guys aren't the Russians, someone from the Middle East, just for one.
Yeah. Oh, all right. Well, it's 10 o'clock. Anybody have anything else, or should we wrap this baby up and put it to bed? I think
Video games.
video games. All right. Well, thanks everyone for coming out, watching us tonight from home. It's Cocktail Time, episode 8 at 4Player Podcast. Make sure you check out our main website at 4playerpodcast.com. We have some news stories and stuff going on over there. And we will definitely see you guys next week. Keep in mind, everybody, that it is now Community Month. So this entire month, we will be playing the games that you guys have voted on in the forum thread. I believe voting is closed now. So if you haven't voted yet, you kind of missed your shot. But this week is Horror Week. So all week we'll be playing the horror games that you guys voted for. I think somewhere we have a list. I'm not sure. But tomorrow night, Chris Davis will be playing Fear on the feed. I will be doing a horror game for Way Back Wednesday. I might be doing one of the mods for the original Half-Life, one of the horror mods for the original Half-Life.
Yeah, I'll be doing Silent Hill 2 on Tuesday.
Yes, Bob
believe.
doing Silent Hill 2 on Tuesday.
Yes.
And I don't know. Do you have the list there, Bob? of what
Yeah,
people are
so
playing?
I think Brad is going to be playing on Tuesday as well. I have no idea what he's doing, but he's going to definitely be playing System Shock 2: The Grudge, Ju-On, that horrible fucking game for the Wii. I think
Right.
that's going to make an appearance, as well as some Amnesia mods.
Mhm.
So there's going to be a lot of really good games coming up. Like I'm just looking at the list, and there's a lot of variety here.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people going to be casting. I know Carlos is going to be casting. I think Nolan's going to be casting at some point. Obviously, Brad, Chris, Joseph, myself. I think Nick might be casting at some point too. So it's just going to be a lot of horror games this entire week.
Yeah. So everyone check out the main site every night. 4pp.tv is the quickest way to get there. So just put that in, and that'll take you to the promised land. Thanks, George, for coming out in your first cocktail time.
That's okay. Someone in the chat a while back asked, has the sun risen in the UK? Yes, it has.
Fantastic.
It's brilliant.
Yeah. Thanks for staying up late and getting up. Particularly, it's not even late or early. It's just this sort of weird nether region of morning that you've.
Yeah,
You've
I
chosen.
definitely not normally drinking at this time of the day.
I'm glad we can be good influences.
Yeah, so you can go back to sleep now.
Yes.
Okay.
And thanks, Bob, again. So we'll see you guys next week. Stick around. I think someone will be taking over. Maybe Sci-Fi. I don't know if Sci-Fi is in chat, but there's a good chance that somebody will be taking over the feed when we're done. So thanks a lot, and we'll see you guys next week.
Ludicrous speed!